It's September 15th, 2019. It's been really rainy here in Seattle. Um, yeah, let's start the update over here with the ficus tree. You can see it's still sending out a lot of new leaves. And down here at the trunk, you can see a tiny new growth. Over here we have the succulents. They're all looking good. Here we have the Frizzle Sizzle. You can see most of the flowers has faded. There's a few flowers that's not falling off, like those ones. And these are the ones that fell off when I touch it, like this one. The ones that are not falling off has a firmer touch to it in the inside. And I believe, hopefully that's seed forming. But we'll have to check back next week. Down here we have the tomato. You can see there's a lot of tomatoes that's ready to harvest. And the tomato plant is being attacked by powdery mildew. You can see kind of the powdery white substance on the leaves. Over here we have the sweet alyssum. Smells really good. And the California poppy, you can see some white stuff on the leaves too. Being attacked by powdery mildew as well. Hydrangea is looking great. Lavender, you can see it's sending out a lot more new flowers over here. And down here we just have some new growths. The rosemary is looking the same, but if you look over here you can see some flowers forming. So it's gonna flower again. Another rosemary, this one isn't flowering. Peony, you can see it's dying back for sure. Over here we have the succulents. You can see all the succulents has gotten really big. I think they really like this bigger pot. The pineapple is looking great. You can see it's sending out new leaves. If you look at the whole plant, you can see the bottom part with the smaller leaves and the top part with the longer, bigger leaves. That's when I moved the plants outdoor. And the green onion, you can see it's getting super big. This part is still sending out a lot of new leaves. And this plant over here, it's dividing into two, it looks like. I'm not too sure. But yeah, these few leaves over here has kind of fallen, so I'm gonna harvest these ones and freeze them for later use. Down here we have the grape hyacinth. You can see there's a lot of leaf growth, not seeing any flowers though. Mulberry looks pretty much the same. Over here we have the dahlia. You can see the plant is getting super big. And here we have some flower buds that's forming. I'm not sure if they're gonna open though. Down here is the lily of the valley. You can see the plant is dying back now. Here's some fruits that's forming. Here's two more. And then here's a bunch more. You can see they're definitely turning orange reddish now. And the blueberry, you can see the leaves have started to turn red. Calla lily flower, you can see has started to turn yellow, and the fruits inside is getting bigger still. Here we have the strawberry. Let's look at that little long fruit from last week. It has turned red, but unfortunately slugs has gotten to it before I did. Yeah, so can't eat this. Too bad. But over here we still have this strawberry. This one is pretty big too, so gotta remember to harvest this maybe in 2 days or so. Doesn't look like there's more flowers or something around. I think the strawberry is probably done flowering for the season. But you can see it's still sending out a bunch of runners, even though after I cut them last week. This is the hydrangea flower. You can see this stalk is getting super tall. And over here we have another tall hydrangea stalk. And you can see it's also sending out some flowers. As for the raspberries, you can see a bunch of fruits that's ready to harvest. They're not as big and full as the ones that's harvested weeks ago. Right here, you can see some more flowers. And here's a lot more raspberry fruits that's going to mature. This other stalk here, you can see there's a lot of fruits ready to harvest as well, but those are pretty small, so I'm not going to bother. This stalk over here, you can see it's also sending out some other side stalks. Here's a little more. Looks like there's going to be more flowers from this side stalks. Over here is the plain coleopsis. You can see most of the flower is fading now. The asparagus, down here you can see that new growth. There's a lot of lush leaves. And from one of the main stalk, it's actually sending out some more flowers, which is interesting. Over here we have the catnip. You can see lots of new growth from the base. Grape looks pretty much the same, just leaf growth mostly. Over here is the succulents, look pretty nice. Rhubarb, lots of leaves, and the tiny flower stalk right here. You can see it's growing some leaf from the tip, so that's kind of unusual. And if you look at the base, you can see the rhubarb is sending out some more new leaves. Potato is looking healthier after I trimmed the plants. Here's the older leaves, that's probably going to die back pretty soon. And then on the soil, you can see that potato poking out right here. And then the other one that I found last week is over there. The artichoke flower, you can see it started to turn brown, especially the outer parts. And at the base, you can see lots of artichoke plants coming up from this main plants. As for the indoor garden, this snake plant's baby, you can see it's getting bigger now. This one over here, the succulents, you can see it's still doing really well. It's just sending out a lot of new baby plants as well. The orchids are doing really well too. The Venus slipper orchid flower, you can see it's still around, hasn't faded yet. Let's look at the new growth from these guys. Right here, you can see this one is getting bigger now. And over here we have two new growth. One is this taller one and the other shorter one. Mini snowflake orchid, you can see lots of new leaves coming out still. Really want to see some flowers though. The other one, you can see just more new leaves. And this one over here, it's getting taller now. String of pearls, you can see I moved it to the top shelf. So it can receive more sunlight. Hopefully that will in turn stimulate some new growth. The mini oncidium orchid, this guy over here is sending out a bunch of flower stalks. This flower stalk over here is the one from a few weeks ago, and right here you can see a new flower stalk has formed. And if I turn around, you can see another flower stalk is coming out from this plant over here. This other mini oncidium isn't doing too much, not seeing any flower stalk. And these other orchids are doing really well. You can see just mostly leaf growth now. This orchid over here, you can see the new leaf that I pointed out last week is getting bigger now. And the phalaenopsis is doing really well too. You can see the leaf, and here's a bunch of roots. And the arrowhead plants, you can see it's recovering pretty well after I trimmed the whole thing. And the plants in the water is doing really well. You can see the new leaves has a pretty nice color to it. And in the water, there's a bunch of roots forming still. The Hoya plant is looking great. You can see more new leaves coming out from this long vine. As for the spider plants, you can see a bunch of new growth from the base. These are all fresh new leaves coming out. And here's a flower stalk with some nice little white flowers. The pearl plant is looking great as well. You can see that new growth is getting taller now. And over here you can see some flowers coming out from this plant over here. These are their flower stalks. Over here we have the philodendron. You can see the long vines. And let's also take a look at the staghound fern. You can see the shield frond is kind of turning brown, especially in the center. On the other side, this shield frond, you can see it's definitely getting bigger. From this view, you can also see antler frond forming. I moved the succulents back by the window because you can see right here, the plant is kind of etiolated. I need to give it more sunlight, essentially.